Wait, Amelia, what's your unit? Unit 2. But I mean, like, what's the unit 2? I know we're going to frame our framers and I was history beliefs of the framers as well as the creation of the Constitution.
My mom says I have to record. Give me a picture though. My mother made me. Just she said. Come on.
All rise.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Right here.
Good afternoon,
There you
everyone.
go. Please have a seat. All right, we're the congressional judges for Unit 2. How did the history and beliefs of the framers influence the creation of the Constitution? I'll have the judges introduce themselves, and then we'll have our experts introduce themselves.
My name is Charles Brown. I'm with the Howard County Fire Department, specifically the Office of the Fire Marshal.
I'm Terry Taylor. I'm with Civil Air Control here in Howard County. Who would like to start the introduction?
Hi, my name is Amelia Starr. My favorite historical figure is Marie Curie because she found radium and polonium. She used radium to treat cancer and kept it from the Germans in World War II.
Hi, my name is Lila Simeon. My favorite historical figure is Martin Luther King Jr. because he taught people about equal rights and he taught the value of person. He also gave a happy speech.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Amayu. My favorite historical figure is Martin Luther King Jr. because he inspired me with his nonviolent action as he worked to overturn segregation and racism throughout the southern United States.
Hi, my name is Joshua Gibbons. My favorite historical figure is Martin Luther King Jr. because he gave the I to Be speech. It inspired me because it brought people of all races together.
Hi, my name is Tamia Mills, and my favorite historical figure is Harriet Tubman because she helped people out of slavery using the Underground Railroad. She saved many lives with risking her own without regret.
Hello, my name is Matthew Mann, and my favorite historical figure is Billy Graham because he evangelized to many people around the world, and also because he was a wonderful pastor and good friends with Dr. King.
All right, Congress has formed a congressional committee to gather information on the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's also looking into the compromises that were made at the Philadelphia Convention. Members of your group are expert witnesses that have been asked to testify on the question, how did the history and the beliefs of the framers influence the creation of the Constitution? Take a deep breath. Let it out, please. And whenever you're ready.
How would you like it if your natural rights were taken away? It wouldn't be fun, would it? The framers said that the basic purposes of government were to protect people's natural rights, life,
Liberty,
And property.
They also thought that the government should support common good. Common good means doing what's best for the majority of the community, not just individuals.
For example, 21 Americans are suing the government. They believe that their rights to life, liberty, and property are being violated by the use of fossil fuels, which contribute to climate change.
the framers also believed in establishing justice, ensuring domestic tranquility, and keeping keeping citizens safe from harm, and providing for the common defense.
After declaring independence from Great Britain, the framers believed it was time for a government. The Articles of Confederation served as the first constitution.
Once the Articles of Confederation was a daily government, the citizens had too much freedom, the federal government couldn't pay for anything because they couldn't make citizens pay taxes.
It was chaos, and everybody was in a state of nature. The government needed more power.
As a result, people began to realize that the Articles of Confederation just wasn't working. In 1787, states met in Philadelphia to discuss and revise the Articles.
They worked on making a stronger government while keeping the states happy. This was called the Great Compromise. The framers decided that they needed to separate the government into 3 branches: the executive, legislative, and judicial. However, was it enough to make the government strong?
No. The plan created 2 parts in Congress. The Senate would have 2 representatives from each state, big or small. The House of Representatives would have representation based on population of the state. Also, at the Philadelphia Convention, the framers faced the issue of slavery. Finally, they agreed on the 3/5 clause. This clause gave southern states the right to count 3/5 of their slaves for the purpose of representation in Congress.
By 1790, the framers of the original 13 states had signed off and ratified the United States Constitution.
Recently, the president let the government shutdown happen because he wanted Congress to approve funds for a federal law.
Each branch checks and balances the other. For instance, Congress makes the laws, but the president can veto them, and the Supreme Court can declare them unconstitutional. The president enforces the laws, but Congress must approve executive appointments, and the Supreme Court rules whether executive action is constitutional. Recently, the president let the government shutdown happen because he wanted Congress to approve funds for his work law.
However, the Supreme Court can strike down actions by both the legislative and executive branches, but the president nominates Supreme Court justice, and the Senate confirms or denies the nominations.
Some people did not approve of the Constitution. They were known as the Anti-Federalists. They thought that the new Constitution would have too much power.
They wanted a Bill of Rights, the name for the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These amendments protect the rights and liberties of the American citizens. The Bill of Rights was added in 1791.
The First Amendment is perhaps the most important part of the Bill of Rights. This amendment protects the freedoms of expression, liberty, press, speech, and assembly.
Since that time, other amendments have been added. Many of the amendments give rights to other people who are not given these rights during the original Constitution. We are all proud of the Constitution of the United States of America.
All right, deep breath. Ready for some follow-up questions? Excellent.
Okay. How might the Constitution have been different if women, blacks, and other minorities had also been delegates at the Constitutional Convention?
I think that the Constitutional Convention would have been a lot different. I think that African Americans would have tried to make their own tests so that they could learn how to read and write. And I also think that women would try to earn their rights to voting too. And they probably would have gotten their rights earlier. I also think that the African Americans would have been denied their right to vote.
Oh, no, that's okay, you're good. All right. Are there times when freedom of expression should be limited? Why or why not? And give examples.
There are definitely times when freedom of expression should be limited. It should be limited when it is hurting or threatening to hurt someone. For example, recently at the College of California, Berkeley, Ann Coulter was supposed to speak. People were protesting very violently because they thought her speech was controversial and they didn't want her to come speak. It was too unsafe for her to come speak. And the college tried to prevent this from happening again by using the 3-strike rule. If you protest violently or destroy other people's property 3 times, you are expelled from the school. Another time freedom of expression should be limited is when the speech is hateful or untrue. This promotes the common good.
Okay. Why did the framers not abolish slavery at the time they wrote the Constitution?
The framers did not abolish slavery at the time they wrote the Constitution. They wanted their slaves to work on plantations.
I agree with my colleague Layla. Because the framers needed the slaves to work on their plantations, they didn't want, the South probably wouldn't want to sign the Constitution because then they wouldn't have the slaves working on their plantations. So the North had to come up with a compromise. The North's compromise was the 3/5 clause. This clause meant for that every 5 slaves, 3 counted as 1 vote. So the South got more representation in Congress. They liked this and agreed to sign the Constitution.
What do you think the framers thought was the most important, common good or individual rights?
I think the framers thought that individual rights was more important because they made the Bill of Rights. Like when the government needed more roads, so they needed to use the land, somebody else's land, and the person.
Please pardon the interruption. Kathy Seuss, if you could please
that
ring in the office at
person's land,
225 Kathy
they should have a
Seuss.
say in which they should have a say in which it's their land, so they can know, they can say that they shouldn't be doing this without them having a say in which their land should be taken away for roads.
I respectfully disagree with my colleague Tamia because common good promotes everyone, not just one person. So, for example, the measles outbreak. People have been standing up for their individual rights by saying no to having the measles shot. But seeing now that measles have gone everywhere, this promotes the common good. If the person had thought before they said no to the shot, they would have the measles outbreak would have never been as populated as this.
I would like to add on to my colleague Ananya. I think that the framers thought that the common good was more important because it was only at the Constitutional Convention did they choose to write the Bill of Rights, and that was only because of the Anti-Federalists.
Okay. Why did the framers think a constitution was necessary?
The framers thought a constitution was necessary because it protects people's natural rights. And if we didn't have a government, we won't be living in a good, safe, and peaceful place. The Articles of Confederation were too weak, and we were living in a state of nature.
Which amendment do you think is the most important and why?
I think the First Amendment is most important because it protects natural born rights. You can say what you want and wear what you want without anybody saying you can't. The First Amendment has 5 basic liberties, but yeah, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of petition, and assembly.
I agree with my colleague Tamia because the First Amendment protects our natural born rights that we need to have no matter what the Bill of Rights says. For example, Not too long ago, a Seahawks player, Richard Sherman, was kneeling for the national anthem because black unarmed citizens were being shot in the middle of streets. He thought this was, he didn't like this, so he kneeled for the national anthem and stood up for unity.
That's fine. All right, one more quick question. Would you all like some feedback, or do you want us to just leave?
Feedback, please.
Okay, I was impressed as a group when you did your first presentation that you included the division of government, which is a very important part of the Constitution, where it put in the checks and balances. I thought that was very good on your part as a group. When it came to the individual talks, Anania, I like how you brought everything up to today. Instead of, there's nothing wrong with relating it to back then, but people can relate now to what's going on. And when you use examples from there, that was good. Matthew, you used you had some very good examples about the voting. And Tamia, you had good examples as well. When you talked about the common good and individual rights. It was a very good statement that you made on that. For the most part, all of you did a very good job with eye contact. That's something that's very important when you're talking, and I don't care what you are doing in life, you have to be able to maintain good eye contact with people to get your thought across. I thought you all did a good job with that.
I think you had a fabulous presentation. Amelia, you started off at the very beginning with asking that question, which was very engaging. How would you like to have your rights taken away? And I thought that was a really good way to start the whole process off. It really caught our attention, and that's the big thing. Trying to read my notes as we go through this. When you were talking about, at the very beginning, we were discussing the Articles of Confederation, Lily, you were talking about that they were very weak, they didn't have, everybody had too much freedom. And the important part that you added in there is they couldn't pay for this and the taxes, and that worked out for us. And Tamia, you came in and said that caused a state of nature. So you really clearly defined the weaknesses of the Article of Confederation and how we got there. But I think that important part, adding in there about paying for it and the resulting part of it, the state of nature. Joshua, it was interesting. I liked at the beginning, and you started actually like reciting the preamble as your justification. I was like, well, that works really well. I thought that was great. You also brought in about the Supreme Court justices when we were going back and forth. I like the government shutdown. To be able to bring the government shutdown in and a couple of you did it to explain the whole checks and balances. And then you, one of the only groups that really explained the Supreme Court justices, and then other people just touched on the others, but you brought that in. Your examples, from everywhere from the fossil fuels that Matthew brought in about the 21 Americans saying that was taking away their natural rights. The question that we asked about whether the common good and individual rights, Mia stood up for herself and said, I thought it was the individual rights because they had the Bill of Rights. And I brought in the example of the measles. Matthew, you said something that nobody else has about that. They originally went to the Constitutional Convention, and so that's why you said the common good, because that was their focus. It wasn't until they added later the Bill of Rights that they focused on the individual rights. Nobody's brought that up, so it's a very interesting thought to think about. Y'all did a fabulous job. I love your conclusion for your first part, back to another question, to keep people thinking, and because you really definitely have us thinking. I have no doubt that you're ready to move on to middle school and high school and beyond that. So let's give another round of applause. How about if we thank the teachers, staff, family, parents, they make the day just let's give them a thank you. Great job, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Come on.